Here we are on the front of our Dutchman Colorado 26RL. We're going to be going over the components on this unit, doing a walkthrough on it. If for some reason your component is slightly different from this one, we do have other videos that go over more specifics on these components and other ones that may be in your unit in our Helpful Hacks section of YouTube. So to start off with, we'll hit here in the front, we have our 7-way plug. This will be connected to our vehicle that we're towing with, and this will transfer running lights as well as blinkers and also a charge line to charge our battery. We also have this cable right here. This cable is for our breakaway system. There is a pin that will pull out in the event that our hitch, something happens to it and our trailer disconnects. That pin pulls out and it activates the brakes on our system. This is 12-volt controlled, so we want to make sure we have a good battery for that system to work. Up front we have our 12-volt operated tongue jack. This jack does have a little on-off light on it, and we also have the up and down feature of the electric jack. Now in the event this system isn't working, we do have a little line back here, this wire that we can follow, and it will lead to a blade fuse. If that blade fuse is blown out, then this system will not work. We'll have to replace it. In the event it's okay and maybe our light still turns on, we know we have 12 volts, whatever, and the system doesn't work, this little black cap right here gets removed, and we have a crank handle that we insert onto that bolt in there, and then we will manually crank our unit up and down using that to get out of a jam. Behind that we have our dual propane tanks with a dual propane auto changeover regulator. That regulator will automatically swap from the empty tank that is selected in the event that it goes empty and swap over to the full tank next to it as long as it has gas in it. It will also give you a red indicator letting you know that tank is empty and it needs to be changed out. Behind it we have our mount for our battery. That 12-volt battery will supply power throughout our unit. We also have locations for all of our resettable breakers that are also 12-volt operated. These are for things like our slide out and our stabilizer jacks. These are resettable breakers. In the event they have an over amperage on those components, they're going to reset on their own after about a minute or so of shutoff. They heat up from over amperage and they trip, and then they reset. So if this is a continuous problem, of course you want to bring it into the shop to have that component looked at and figure out what's going on, but there's no actual fuse to change on those components. On the driver's side front of our unit, of course, we have our pass-through bay with our compartment door for access. We have magnetic clips to be able to hold that door on. Just inside the door right here, we are prepped for an inverter system. That inverter system would change 12 volts to 110. In the event we are dry camping, we don't have a plug-in wherever we're at, then that system can change that voltage so we can run some small appliances in our unit. So it is pre-wired for that already. You would just have to upgrade to the inverter. And it also has pre-wiring for a solar controller. A solar controller would convert solar energy to charging power for our battery system. We would also have to upgrade to our solar panels on the roof. So all that wiring is there. We just have to add the components if we want to do that. We have our city water connection. Our city water connection is used in the event that we have a hose bib at the campsite or wherever we're at. Run that water hose from there to here, and we go ahead and screw it in. We can put an inline filter in there if we wish. We turn that system on and it will supply water to all our fixtures inside the unit. Below that we have our Suburban tankless water heater system. This tankless water heater system is an on-demand system, so when you turn that hot water on, it'll start to heat it immediately, and it is never ending until you either run out of water or gas, because it is a propane appliance. We'll go over the operation of that when we get on the inside. Down just before we get to our slide out, we have our gray valve right here and our black valve. That is for our gray tank and our black tank. Our gray tank holds water that comes from our sinks or our shower, and we can leave that valve open all the time if we have our hose connected to a sewer system somewhere, and we can allow that water to drain out constantly. Now, one thing we don't want to do is have our black tank open all the time. We only have our black tank open when we're ready to dump. Reason why is that's where our solids and everything goes from our toilet system. If we leave that valve open, then the water is going to drain out of there and it's going to cause what's called dry tank, which means we're not going to be able to fix that tank. All that stuff is going to be dried up in there and it's going to have to be replaced. So keep that valve closed until you're ready to dump. The procedure for dumping is you have your hose hooked up, you open that black tank valve, and we're going to dump. And down the line here we have a black tank flush connection. much like our city water connection. We'll hook a hose to it, and there's a little spray jet inside that tank that's going to help flush out the debris and everything that might be in that system. We're going to flush that out for a little while. Then when we're done, we're going to close that black tank valve. We want to put a couple of gallons of water in there, whether we do it through the black tank flush or we do it at the toilet and just hold the foot pedal down. Leave a few gallons of water in there to help any other debris that might still be in there to still get caught and not dry up. We also want to add some chemical in there to help decompose anything that might be left in there and help it smell a whole lot better than what it will. Our slide outs are 12 volt operated. There is a electric ram that's in the underbelly that you can't see. When we hit that switch on the inside, that'll run in and out. This is called a through frame slide. We have more information on that in our helpful hacks section. Here we have our cable connection. This is where we'll hook up part cable to our unit, and then we can go on the interior, hook that coax from that port to the TV, and scan for cable channels. On our bumper, we also have a storage spot for our black tank hose or our sewer hose. We want to rinse it out real good, and we can slide it into that pipe and store our hose in there so we don't get our front compartment all nasty and dirty. On our back of our unit, we are prepped for a backup camera to help us monitor what's behind us while we're traveling down the road or when we're backing up. And we also have our 30 amp connection right here. This 30 amp connection is for our power. So whenever we hook this up, we want to make sure that we are disconnected from the other end and that our appliances are off on our unit. ACs mainly, we don't want to create a surge to our system. So when we plug it in, we line up our prongs. There's only one way it can go. We slide it in there and we turn it slightly to the right, and we make sure that we tighten up that ring that's on there as well so that plug can't come out. From that point, we go over to our plug-in at our camping post and we plug in for the rest of our power, and we can go camping after that. We do not have a factory provided ladder for our back of our unit to be able to access the roof. So that means you need to get an A-frame ladder or something. And we need to do this because you are responsible for checking your roof and sealants throughout your entire unit. So we have sealant on that roof. It is a rubber roof as well. And we also have sealant around our trims, our lights, our windows, so on and so forth. All of this needs to be checked every 60 to 90 days, either by you or a technician at a shop, to make sure that we don't have any openings or peeling or damage anywhere on our unit. Trees can drag across the rooftop if we're not careful. It can open up holes in the rubber. It can tear sealant. So we need to check and make sure all of these things are in good condition. These units also flex down the road, causing openings. So we need to make sure that we're sealing up all that stuff every 60 to 90 days. Just like maintaining the oil in your car, you get an oil change, you're checking the sealant on your unit. If we don't do this and water leaks into our unit, manufacturers don't participate in that type of repair. So we need to make sure that we are maintaining our unit properly so we don't cause any damage to it that wouldn't be covered. On the passenger side of our unit, we have another access door for our pass-through compartment. And down here we have our Lippard stabilizer jacks. This is another 12 volt control component. Hit of a button and we can drop those jacks down and stabilize our unit. Now I do mean stabilize, not level. You shouldn't put a bunch of weight on these and try to level out your unit. It will cause those jacks to collapse and not be covered under warranty. So how do we level our unit? Well, we use stabilizer blocks. We can get those stackable blocks put under our tires to help lift it from left to right and level it out. And we use our tongue jack in the front to level it from front to back. Then we put these down and we put a little bit of weight on them. Once again, stabilizing our unit and reducing the amount of movement inside it. Now once again, 12 volt component. We can follow the wiring under here. It's going to lead us to a resettable breaker, and that resettable breaker, like I said earlier, will reset on its own if there's any other amperage issues or anything like that to that motor in the event that it's just not working. There is an override for that. We'll go over that right now. So here we are back on the driver's side of our unit, opposite of our motor in and our switch, and we have this handle. We can see this handle has a little slice in it, and it will line up with the post on that jack. We line it up and we can manually run that jack up and down if we need to. Our front entry door leads us into our bedroom. Both entry doors are going to be the same in the information that I'm talking about with the entry door and the steps. Both of them have friction controlled hinges, which helps reduce the opportunity for wind to blow that door closed, and we don't have any latches on these doors to hold them, anything like that. So you're going to feel a little resistance on that door. It's meant to be that way. We do have screen doors on both of our doors. Pull that little lever and we can put our screen door, and we also have that little bug protector right there to keep insects out of that hole. We want to open it up and restore it, we can just close it onto our door. We also have our entry steps. These are foldable. Lift there and there, and those steps will fold out, fold in, and pull there and there, and they will fold out. You do need to lubricate the hinge points on here, and you use silicone spray to lubricate that. You don't want to use WD-40 or anything, because that'll attract dirt and grime, and it will make those hinges a whole lot harder to operate. Moving down our unit, we have our awning. Our awning is a sunshade only, not an umbrella. So anytime we have bad weather approaching, raining, high winds, anything like that, this can become a parachute, or it can collect water. Either way, it is going to rip off of here and cause some damage, and that'll cost you an insurance claim. So we need to make sure that any bad weather approaching, or we're leaving our unit for an extended period of time, we roll that awning in. Now, one thing that we definitely need to know during proper operation of our awning is we need to pitch it. There's a way to pitch it either towards the front of the unit or the rear. This is for any water development on that awning, such as dew or AC runoff. We'll have water dripping out from our AC that could run on here as well. We want to pitch our awning and prevent water from pooling up in the middle of our awning and collapsing it. So we want to do that by pulling down this arm right here. We have a little knob that we can tighten up, and this holds our awning pitched to where water can drain off. Once again, we can do it in the rear instead of the front if we want, but we only do one or the other. When we're ready to store our awning, we just loosen that knob and allow that awning arm to go back up, and we can return our awning into the stored position. Once again, 12-volt operated component. If we have any issues with it, we're going to go check that fuse panel on the inside. Under our awning, we have our black tank flush connection. This will go along with flushing that black tank system and dumping our sewage on the other side. That is where you're going to hook your hose to flush out that black tank system. Behind it, we have our 110 GFCI protected outlet right here to supply us with 110 power outside. GFCI protected means that we have an outlet on the inside that controls the power to this one. If it's ever tripped, it's kind of like a breaker. You go to that and you hit the reset button on it. We'll go over that when we get inside. Behind me, we have our furnace, gas operated. This furnace will come on through the operation of the thermostat on the inside. We'll go over that in a little bit. Just know that this exhaust does put out some hot air whenever it is operational. Our last connection under here is our freshwater connection. Our freshwater connection can be filled by opening this cap and inserting a water hose and filling up our tank. That tank is our fresh tank. That fresh tank provides us with water when we don't have a hose bib or wherever we're at. We don't have a water connection, right? So we fill that tank up. We can monitor it by our convenience center that we'll see here in a second when we step inside, and fill that tank up to whatever amount of water that you wish, and we kick on our 12-volt water pump. That 12-volt water pump will pull water from that tank and send it to our fixtures so we can have water. If we want to dump that fresh water connection, we do have a water hose under here with a little valve sticking out of the bottom of the underbelly. It's a blue hose on this one. And we open that valve up and the fresh water will drain out of that system. We don't want the added extra weight if we're not going to use the water, so no sense in keeping it in there. Just drain it out. And we also don't want to leave it in there for extended periods of time because that water will become stagnant. Last thing under our awning is our vent up top. That vent does have some latches on it or push tabs, one of the two, to keep it secure and closed when we are not using it. This is to help prevent nests or rodents from building anything in there. When we are using that range hood vent above our stovetop, we want to make sure that it is open so the air will exhaust out. When we're done, make sure it's closed off. As we come into our unit on the right, we do have our convenience center right here where our meter shows us our battery level, our fresh level, our black tank, and our gray tank. Now, if we had a secondary gray tank, that's what gray 2 is used for, but on this unit, we only have one. So keep that in mind. Gray 2 is for absolutely nothing. Gray 1 will read your one gray tank in there. We also have our awning retract and extend button that will run that awning in and out, and our exterior light switch for those awning lights. Our interior light switch obviously turns the interior off and on. Our water pump is for that freshwater connection. When we kick it on, it will kick that pump on and provide water from that fresh tank to our water fixtures. Of course, we want to make sure we have water in that tank. And if we are hooked up to a city water connection, turn that pump off. Down here we have our slide out in and out button. This will operate that through frame slide for us on the side of the unit. All 12 volt operated components. In the event that we have any issues, we want to check that fuse panel by the 110 breaker system for any burnt fuses. As we can see, we have some recliners for our unit. This is the actual stored position that they are in. We need to use these straps to help store them, because when we close our slide out, it will not work properly if we have them turned facing out. So when we go to run our slide out in, we need to make sure they're turned this way properly so they are stored properly and strapped properly for travel. Here in our kitchen area, we have our standard microwave. We have that hood vent that we talked about outside. We want to make sure that exhaust vent is open when we operate. It has our little fan on here, all 12 volt controlled for our fan and our light. We have our 3-burner stove right here. This glass cooktop is a protector for those stoves. We need to make sure that when we are in travel, we close that so it doesn't cause any damage to the glass. Now, our stove is going to run off of propane, of course. We have a little button right here that will turn the lights on for ambiance. When we are ready to light our stove, we pick whatever burner we want, we turn it on, and we want to start hitting that ignite button right away to make sure that we are not allowing gas in our unit. We want to light that stove top. Now, one thing that you're going to want to know is that this is where we want to go to bleed air out of our system. In the event that you stored your unit for an extended period of time or even a short period of time, sometimes you had your propane tanks off or you changed your propane tanks, whatever the case may be, go to this stove, turn your propane tanks on, go to the stove, and you want to light this. Now, this could take a little bit of time, 30 to 60 seconds, of trying and igniting it, or you can get a long stem lighter and have it on there as long as that burner is on, and eventually light the stovetop. Once it is lit, let it run for 30 to 60 seconds. This will help purge all the air out of that system. We want to do this before we operate things like our water heater or our oven down here or our furnace, because it will take a lot longer to bleed the air out of those systems, and some of them have faults that they'll go into too. So it's a lot easier just to come to this stovetop first and bleed the air out of your LP system when you go on a camping trip. Next, we'll go over the operation of our oven and how to light that pilot. We have our oven. Our oven can be initiated by using our knob all the way to the right. We'll turn it to that flame sense. The only difference on this one, we have to push it down. When we push it down and hold it, we're going to turn it until that pilot lights underneath. Now, even though that pilot is lit, we have to hold that button down for a little while until the thermocouple warms up. Once we pull our thumb off of it, we should see it stay lit. Once it stays lit, we can go ahead and turn our knob to our desired temperature, and our burner tube will light up. If the pilot light goes out whenever you pull off of that knob, then that means you didn't hold it down long enough, and you should go ahead and relight it. Last component we have in our kitchen is our 12 volt refrigerator. No matter the brand, they all have an on-off switch in here to operate them, and they also have that cold to colder setting for the thermostat as well. We have a freezer in here in our fridge box. When we shut our unit off, we've unplugged our unit or we've turned it off here, whatever, we're done camping, we're ready to store our unit. These do not have drains on them. So it's going to defrost and it's going to leave a puddle of water in this freezer. You need to get all that water out of there because it will leak out. These are airtight gaskets, not watertight. They're going to leak out and they're going to damage the wood around your refrigerator. That's not a warrantable item. So we need to make sure we are defrosting this properly and cleaning all that out and wipe down our refrigerator, get any water out of there as well. And this also helps avoid any mold or mildew that can develop in your fridge. Last thing is a travel latch on here. We go ahead and swing that around and it helps reduce the opportunity for any goods to fall out of your fridge during travel. To the side of our fridge, we have our 110 and 12 volt center. This is where our breakers are located for our AC, microwaves, and so on. We'll come here to make sure none of these are tripped in the event that something isn't working properly. For our 12 volt components, we'll come here to make sure that the fuses aren't blown if we have any issues with operation there. Below it, you'll see this little air vent grid. This is for our converter system. You may hear a little fan blowing in there to help keep that system cool. Our converter system is basically a battery charger. When we're plugged into shore power, then that system is going to change 120 volts to 12 volts, charging our battery system and providing us with lights and power to our other 12-volt components. Here we have our RV CO and LP detector. This is a safety device to let us know if any harmful gases are in our unit. In the event that it goes off, we want to exit our unit safely, and we need to test this once a month. Hold that button down and make sure that alarm goes off. Once again, another 12-volt component. Here we have our Suburban tankless water heater system. It's our control center for that, turning it off and on using that power button. If we want to set our temperature, we set it through the arrows right here to whatever we want it to, and we can change our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature right there. Once we initiate our system, it will give us some displays on our LED, letting us know that our system is active, and it will heat up to the proper temperature. We'll start with our cool option first. Our cool will cool the air throughout our unit. We, of course, set our thermostat to whatever point we want it to be, and we have our fan speed options. We have low and high. For low and high, that fan will run all the time. Now, whenever we want that fan to cut off, whenever the compressor cuts off, much like we likely do at home, we have it on auto. That system will shut off and on with the compressor. Our next mode is our heat mode. Our heat mode activates our gas-powered furnace on our unit. We choose our set point, and our heater will come on whenever necessary. There is fan speeds on here, but it does not change the fan speed on that furnace. It is a single fan speed on there controlled by the furnace board. Our next mode is our fan mode. Our fan mode simply circulates air throughout our unit without cooling it or anything. This will come out of our rooftop air, and we can just change from high to low to control that fan speed if we wish. That fan will stay on the entire time when we have it in our fan mode. Our last mode is our dry mode. Our dry mode is like a dehumidifier. We can choose our set point, and it will cool our unit down to that set point, and it will continue to cool past that, but alternate every 6 to 10 minutes off and on. That way it doesn't drop that temperature too low and freeze you out of the unit, but it still dries the air in your unit. Another thing to note with our furnace is that the air is going to come out of the vents on the floor. It's not going to come out of the rooftop air. Your only rooftop air is going to be your fan and your cool and your dry. Your heat will come out of those floor vents from the furnace. Up here we have our AC assembly. Our AC assembly has a filter on it that we need to pull down and clean every so often to make sure we're getting good return air to our unit. And we also have this vent right here. It is a quick dump vent. In the event we want to cool this area off quickly, we open that up, and only air is going to come out of this vent and not through the ducts throughout your unit. We want to make sure that when we do want to disperse the air throughout our unit, that we have this vent closed so it will force the air through the ducts of the unit. Over here in the corner we have our mount for our TV system. We have our 110 outlet, and we also have our little wind guard plate. From this coax right here, we'll go straight to our TV, and we will be able to provide cable or air antenna to our TV. Now we have two buttons on here. One is antenna power. That is for our antenna on the rooftop. When we hit that button and that light turns on, it provides a 12-volt boost to that antenna to help catch more channels in your area. When we are scanning for cable channels, we want that button off so it doesn't scramble the signal from the cable. Also next to it is Wi-Fi power. That antenna can be upgraded with a router system to provide you with Wi-Fi amplification for any Wi-Fi that's at the campground, or you can upgrade to the cell phone service providing you with 4G LTE. We can initiate that system if we have it by hitting that button right there, and a green light will indicate that it's on. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these 2 buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. Here we are in our shower and toilet and GFCI. That's all in our bathroom. Our bathroom, we have our standard faucet fixtures, hot and cold, but we have this nice feature on our head of our shower that we can hit right here. This is an on-off button for our shower head. So let's say we're dry camping, we're trying to avoid the amount of water that we put in that gray tank or the amount of water that we use out of our fresh tank. We are showering by getting wet, turning our water off, and then turning it back on when we're ready after we've soaked up and we're ready to rinse off. So we do that pretty easily without losing our temperature of our water by hitting this button right here, shutting that system off, soaping up, and then we can kick it back on when we're ready to rinse. So it's just a convenience item. And I will tell you, whenever you do kick it back on, you'll get a short burst of cold water, so you might want to push that off to the side, but within a couple seconds you'll return to the water temperature that you had set at your original faucets. In your shower, if you look above, you do have a 12-volt exhaust fan up there for whenever you take a shower. Lets the steam out of that bathroom, helps prevent the opportunity for mold and mildew by getting all that moisture out of the bathroom whenever you use it. Our toilet leads down to our black tank. Now, anytime we are putting liquids down here, number one, we can just flush it right off the back, no problem. When we hit that pedal, some water is going to squirt down and flush that system. Number two, if we are putting solids down our drain, we want to make sure we hold that pedal down just a little bit and fill the bowl up. That way, when we flush it, we have enough water to help push those solids down into that tank. If you don't do that, it could cause some plumbing problems or clogs in your system. So make sure we're filling the bowl for number two. Only use RV toilet paper. This is decomposable paper for those black tank systems. Don't use anything but it, because that will cause problems in your tank system. This is where we'll add our chemicals. We just hold that valve open. We pour our chemicals in here after we've flushed our tank or during use. If the smell gets bad enough, we can just drop some chemicals in there to help with that. After we have flushed out our system, remember we want to leave a couple gallons of water in there to make sure that any debris that's left in there doesn't dry up, and we pour some chemical in there to help decompose that. Also in our bathroom here, we have our GFCI outlet. This is the main outlet that all the other ones are connected to. In the event that one of those outlets tripped it, we'll come in here and we'll see that this green light right here is off. That means that we have no power to those outlets. We can simply reset that system by hitting reset. Our green light will come back on and we should have power back at those outlets. Now, in the event we want to test this system, we hit that test button, we can check and make sure there's no power at those outlets, and we can come back here and reset it, and we know this system is operating properly. Not much to go over in our bedroom. We do have another coax plate to hook to our TV to provide air and cable channels. And at the foot of our bed, if we lift it up, we do have some storage under there.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful. But wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us. And keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.